Hello and welcome back to Harry Shoots People. Last week I had the opportunity to shoot my first ever wedding, which was a pretty cool thing to do, and it turned out pretty well, but we'll get to that later. As for today's uniform, as you can see, I thought it best to dress smartly, at least from the waist up, but it is currently 26 degrees, so we'll see how long this smart casual lasts for. Anyway, for now it was the morning of the wedding, and I got there pretty early, so I decided I'd sort of walk around the venue, scope out the surroundings and maybe take some quieter pictures just whilst guests were arriving. In terms of gear, I'd actually ended up bringing quite a lot of cameras, but I ended up just sticking with my Contax G1 for the most part. Its autofocus and the TTL flash would definitely come in handy later on, and it was pretty light, so it wouldn't be very obtrusive during just the wedding day. And also obviously I wanted the style points too. Also, I was there as a guest as well, so my brief for the photos was pretty just low-key, kind of the smaller moments. They had a primary wedding photographer anyway, who would be doing the professional sort of wedding photos, and I was just mostly sort of shooting the quieter moments in between and sort of more candid stuff, which is something I'm completely happy with. That's kind of my forte anyway. So yeah, that was kind of my brief for the evening. Anyway, I loaded up the G1 with some Gold 200 just to start with, and like I said earlier, started taking pictures in the morning as the guests were sort of arriving. I really wish I'd loaded the Portra 400 first and started off with that. It ended up being a pretty overcast morning, which wasn't great, and I did have to stop all the way down to get a lot of these photos, and when that's paired with the G1's autofocus, sometimes you miss a little bit, like in this image. I don't dislike this one by any measure, I just would have liked to shoot it at like 5.6 potentially instead of maybe like a 2.8. Oh, and earlier when I'd said about only really using the G1, I decided to also bring the most obtrusive and heavy camera I could possibly find and take 3 frames on it, which probably wasn't the smartest idea, but let's see how they came out. The only 3 frames I ended up taking on this was one shot of the fountain outside of the venue, and these 2 portraits of the groom and I guess his now brother-in-laws. But luckily, just as the reception started, the sun came out, which was really useful for me. This is a really fun shot. I like how the sky is metered properly in the background and sort of in contrast to the people in the foreground. I think it just looks really nice. And I really like just the rows of people. It gives the image a nice depth to it, which I like too. This one is really nice too. I think the slight bit of motion too adds to it feeling more like a memory rather than a perfect image. And also I'm assuming the married couple wouldn't take too kindly to immediately being flashed. There was only really one shot ahead of the wedding that I really envisioned getting, and it was as the bride and groom walk off for the first time, just like the back of their feet as they go off with the trail of the wedding dress, and I ended up getting it, and I'm really happy with it. Pretty much exactly how I'd imagined as well, which was really cool. I would have liked to get a little bit more of the groom's shoes in, but I was rushing anyway. I shot it blind, which I really shouldn't have done, and it came out pretty good. I really like the way that the gold sort of caught the wedding dress, and that little strip of sunlight down the middle with the two aisles being shadowed just came out really nice. It points your eye in the right direction and they're walking off out of frame. Just a really nice image and really nice moment. After this sort of official wedding part was over and they prepared to walk out for the first time, we all gathered round and I took this picture of my sister holding the bouquet, which I really like. Unfortunately though, the 28mm doesn't really do very well, especially in crowds, and when the confetti shot began happening, I missed it. I took 3 separate attempts, didn't really get it perfect on either of them, but I think the first one is probably my favourite out of the 3. It has the least blocking, nicer colours in my opinion, and I think the best feeling to it. And now it was time for professional wedding photos to take place, so I just sort of wandered round and took some quiet moments of different families waiting for their picture to be taken or just chatting. I really like this shot that we took whilst playing mini golf. I really like the sun coming through the middle slightly, that came out really nice. And the fact that there's no faces, but there's almost like a really nice line of symmetry between the two subjects at either side of the frame. I also really like the small detail of Rowan holding the golf ball on the right hand side. It's just a little detail in a frame that I already really like. Inside for dinner, and I just finished up the last couple of shots of the Gold 200 and switched over to the Portrait 400 and started taking some more shots. Here's a self-portrait of me on the Portrait 400 just to test that it was fully loaded. Very soon after loading up the portrait, I shot 2 absolute bangers, which I'm both really happy with. This first one is sort of a faceless suits photo again. Really liking again the natural balance to the image, the focus is really nice and I like that heavy flash. And then the second image was when we were playing football. I took this, which I just really like. It's a nice moment that was captured during the wedding and something that maybe the bride and groom didn't get to see. I was really worried at this point because up until that point, I had only shot about 1.5 rolls of film, and we were aiming for 4 rolls if we could. So I was really concerned that I wasn't going to get through all 4 in that day. But then everyone started dancing. And I'm really happy with these shots. This is a lot more up my alley, especially with the recent sort of event work I've been doing, where I've been photographing the people there, the people enjoying the moment, and that's what I did on the night. And if you remember when I said maybe the Contax G1's TTL metering and autofocus will come in handy, it's autofocus and the TTL flash would definitely come in handy later on. Here it is. All of these images capture the atmosphere of the evening so well. Everyone was so happy, everyone was dancing. It was a really great time, and I think these photos do a great job of reflecting that. That is the benefit of the 28mm, is you can capture so much in that scene, and sometimes it can lead to a close, densely packed image, and other times it can lead to quite a wide one where you can see multiple different groups spending the night differently, which I also really like. And after I'd finished shooting all the Portrait 400, it was time to do something I'd waited pretty much all day for and was looking forward to, and that was loading up my black and white film. I'd brought 2 different stocks with me, but I decided that I'd load the Tri-X first, as I was a bit more excited to shoot that. And yeah, worked like a charm. Obviously, as channel viewers know, I do have a major preference for black and white photography, and I think these photos are definitely proof of that. The monochrome strips back all of the additional elements of the colour photos and depicts the fun, chaos and love of the night in such a perfect way. I love so many of these photos it's even hard to pick a favourite. Also, here's a portrait that my cousin took of me, and it came out pretty good, so shout out to Rosie. My one slight issue with the Tri-X is that after the flash sort of falls off, skin tones can be registered as grey rather than either black or white, which sometimes in photos can look a bit odd, but other times I think it can work out perfectly, like with this image. That flash fall off is basically perfect here. The bride and groom are highlighted and in focus, with everyone else a darkened silhouette. I think this helps give the image the feeling of capturing a private moment between the two. It feels like it's just those two together, also surrounded by family and friends, and the slight bit of motion accentuates that feeling perfectly. If you couldn't tell, I'm a really big fan of that image. After running around and photographing more people, dancing, kissing, shouting, it was time to load up the G1 with my last roll, old familiar HP5, and see what kind of shots we could get out of that. And the HP5 ended up being great too. I'm a really big fan of all of these images, same as the Tri-X. The black and white just did a really great job that night, and it just ended up coming out really happy, so I'm really happy with them. My favourite is probably this picture of Ryan. I think it was just a really great moment. I was really quick with the camera. I think I did miss it by like a fraction of a second. I was a fraction of a second too early, but hey, I'm still really happy with this picture. And also this picture of Jeffrey. This is really great. I think you wouldn't have captured this without the 28mm lens either. For all the bad that it did that day, it also did really good. But yeah, once again, just really happy with these images. I love all of the photos of today pretty much. I think there's a really nice distinct difference between the ones taken earlier and the ones taken later. I do wish, however, that I'd done black and white throughout the day as well. But that's not to say I can't edit these pictures later. However, I am glad that I definitely shot the black and white at night time, as like I say, I'm a really big fan of these photos. And also, the bride and groom being in white and everyone else being so darkened behind them has its advantages and makes them really stand out. But yeah, overall just a massive fan of pretty much every image from the day, and I'll let Harry continue. So I hope you've enjoyed coming with me to photograph my first ever wedding on film. Just first ever wedding in general, really. If you enjoyed this video, drop it a like, say which one your favourite was in the comments, say which one your least favourite was and why. If you'd like to see more of my photography, please consider subscribing, or book me for your wedding. Thank you for watching. Can't wait to get out of this suit.